This past weekend in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Pokemon Go Championship Series kicked off its first North American regional of the 2026 competitive season. The player list was absolutely stacked, with former regional and international champions vying for the chance to become the first regional champion of the North American season. The competition was fierce, with some amazing battles, but in my eyes, none were more amazing than the winners finals and grand finals matchups that I'll be showcasing today. In the winners finals, despite this being the first North American tournament, neither trainer was from North America. On the left, LNDST Steiner from Brazil, and on the right, Z Zweilous from Germany. Steiner is running Shadow Annihilate, Galarian Moltres, Credilli, Bastiodon, Galarian Corsola, and Gastrodon. Z Zweilous is running Charjabug, Gastrodon, Guzzlord, Credilli, Galarian Corsola, and Corviknight. As we look across the matchup, the Bastiodon for Steiner will put a lot of pressure on Z Zweilous' team. As Z Zweilous has two Bastiodon counters, Corviknight and Gastrodon, the other four Pokemon have very negative matchups. The trainers lock in for game number 1, Z Zweilous disrespecting the Bastiodon, and Steiner actually brought it. Z Zweilous did not bring the Gastrodon, instead running a Charjabug Credilli core. Charjabug stays into bank double discharge, and in comes Credilli. Steiner is very weak to Credilli in the back, so he's going to throw the Stone Edge and now send in his own Credilli. His final Pokemon in the back is going to be the Galarian Moltres, a Pokemon that isn't a big fan of a Credilli up energy. So, after getting the chip damage, he can now send out his own Credilli. Z Zweilous does have a massive amount of energy on that Charjabug, but the energy on the Charjabug is not going to go very far into the Bastiodon. So Z Zweilous will put up a shield because he knows he needs to try and make a play for switch advantage. Rock Tomb, no shielded by Steiner. That Rock Tomb is going to be doing some pretty significant damage to that Credilli. Steiner's Credilli is not in range of being farmed down before the next Rock Tomb is reached, but it does look like Steiner does have less HP on his Credilli than Z Zweilous does. Z Zweilous will go for the Rock Tomb, the no shield by Steiner, and just like that, Z Zweilous has flipped switch advantage. In comes Galarian Moltres, getting a big energy head start. In comes Charjabug. Charjabug has the back-to-back discharges locked and loaded, but has already taken a ton of damage throughout the course of this match. Discharge number 1 gets shielded, throwing a Volt Switch and going for discharge number 2. Steiner is also on Payback. Payback allows Galarian Moltres to have an absolutely dominant winning matchup into that Corviknight. Charjabug trying to get to the discharge, but unfortunately cannot get there before the fly is reached by the Moltres. Moltres grabs the shield, waits the turn, there's the catch attempt onto the Bastiodon, and now we've reached the end game. Bastiodon versus Corviknight. Corviknight will take super effective damage from the Flamethrower, but the Sand attacks hit for double super effective damage. The Flamethrower will connect, and for Corviknight, it's all about landing these paybacks. Even though Bastiodon had an energy advantage, Corviknight has the pacing advantage, so Corviknight should be able to get to the next payback before Bastiodon is able to get to the Flamethrower. Bastiodon does not get there. Payback will be picking up the KO, and there's still a move banked on that Charjabug for the Galarian Moltres. In comes Galarian Moltres. Moltres goes for the fly. That's going to be knocking out Corviknight, and it all comes down to this. Can a super effective discharge KO the Moltres? Z Zweilous shaking his head. He's not sure. Discharge is super effective, but it's not a strong move. Discharge into the Moltres will not KO. The Sucker Punch KOs, and that's a game 1 win to Steiner. We move to game number 2, Z Zweilous once again disrespecting the Bastiodon lead, and again, it's led by Steiner. Z Zweilous is waiting for Steiner to throw because he wants to save the energy and pivot out into the Corviknight, but unfortunately, Steiner will not let that happen. Steiner is going to look to farm up as much energy on Bastiodon as possible, farming up just shy of 100 energy, going for the Stone Edge, and now Z Zweilous can look to pivot out of this matchup. Stone Edge will land, in comes the Corviknight, but because Steiner was careful, very deliberate, not throwing the energy until he was almost at 100, he's now able to grab a shield with a Flamethrower and then send in Credilli. Credilli is an absolute nightmare matchup for Corviknight. Corviknight does have a pacing advantage due to its energy lead, but even if it's able to connect with a payback before a debuff gets applied, Corviknight still struggles in this matchup immensely. Rock Tomb going to connect. Z's Wireless already down one shield, not wanting to use the second quite yet. Z's Wireless' switch timer not yet up. It's going to be up momentarily. Z's Wireless banks the energy, switches into the Credilli, and goes for the snipe with the Grass Knot. Grass Knot hits harder than Rock Tomb. Grass Knot will not pick up the knockout. Z's Wireless goes for the Rock Tomb, but loses charge attack priority. So a bit of a good break for Steiner there, as he wins charge attack priority in the Credilli mirror, and he's able to take the knockout. Z's Wireless has yet to reveal that Charge-a-Bug, and he's not going to reveal it yet, instead choosing to send in the Corviknight. Corviknight answered with the Bastiodon. Bastiodon can survive the payback. Steiner has the Annihilate in the back. He didn't want to bring Annihilate into a loaded Corviknight. There's the Annihilate, and Corviknight will immediately threaten to shield with Air Cutter. Now shields are equalized, and here's the reveal. Charge-a-Bug as the closer. These Volt Switches do extra damage this season, and that's going to help Charge-a-Bug, as Annihilate is not a big fan of taking this Volt Switch damage. Rage Fist lands, that's big damage onto the Charge-a-Bug. Charge-a-Bug going to farm up to the back-to-back discharges. Discharge into the Annihilate. Annihilate is going to click no shield. Annihilate survives. Discharge does not knock out, and now Z's Wireless will be hit with a last-second Rage Fist. Z's Wireless, no shields. That gets KO'd. Annihilate gets a counter into the Corviknight, and that's bad news for Z's Wireless. Z's Wireless in trouble. He's going to go for an Air Cutter there, but the Smackdown goes through. Air Cutter is double resisted. He's hoping for the boost. Air Cutter does get the boost, but it's still not enough. Steiner survives and is one win away from Grand Finals. Game number 3, Z's Wireless with his back against the wall finally brings the Gastrodon, but it's in the back. On the lead is a Galarian Corsola mirror. Z's Wireless winning charge attack priority on the lead, Steiner putting up an early shield. So Steiner with an adjustment in strategy, still bringing the Bastiodon, but now bringing it in the back. Z's Wireless finally opting to respect Bastiodon with this line. In comes Corviknight. Corviknight farming ever closer to the payback. Steiner banks a ton of energy on that Corsola, and now in comes Credilli. But this is really good for Z's Wireless, because this will set the stage for Gastrodon to hunt down that Bastiodon. Credilli makes it to a Rock Tomb. Z's Wireless will not have to shield the Corviknight. As Rock Tomb, it does do a solid amount of damage, but Corviknight can hang on. Corviknight going for a payback. This is a -1 payback. Steiner knows this is never going to be the move that gets shielded, so the payback will land. The quick switch into the Corsola. Very valuable Astonish damage for Z's Wireless, and he's happy to let the Corsola go, as Corsola was just a means to an end, and that end is getting the Credilli into farm down range for that Gastrodon. Gastrodon will be brought in as the timer hits 0. Gastrodon farms down. Steiner knows he's in trouble. In comes the Galarian Corsola, but the Galarian Corsola, it's not going to be able to make it to a third Nightshade. It so desperately needs to get there, but it's not going to happen. The Water Pulse already available for the Gastrodon. Nightshade number 2 is reached. It's a charge attack priority tied to the Water Pulse, and Z's Wireless will always be able to deny that third Nightshade with the Water Pulse. And that's going to set up an endgame where Gastrodon hunts down the Bastiodon, and there's nothing Bastiodon can do in that matchup. Steiner going to stay in, getting all the Astonish damage that he possibly can. He's going to catch the Water Pulse onto the Bastiodon, but there's just no way out for Steiner. Water Pulse connects, big super effective damage, now double super effective Mud Slaps. This Gastrodon just farming. Water Pulse will easily KO the Bastiodon, and then all that's left is the Galarian Corsola. There's still a pretty healthy Corviknight for Z's Wireless as well. Body Slam is reached. That will be enough. It's double resisted, but it will be knocking out the Galarian Corsola. Z's Wireless fights off elimination and forces a game 4. Big adjustments from both trainers in game number 4 as Steiner benches the Bastiodon and Z's Wireless again benches that Gastrodon. The leads are going to be a very common lead for this format, and that is Credilli into Galarian Corsola. Quick switch out from Steiner, able to save the energy on the Corsola, sending in his own Credilli. Z's Wireless will look to get some very valuable damage with the Rock Tomb, and on top of that, apply a debuff. he can look to eventually switch out of this matchup into Corviknight if he wants to desync the timers. Or, if he doesn't want those timers to be out of sync, he can decide to stay in. So it looks like he will make the decision to stay in, now opting for a Grass Knot. Grass Knot, the harder hitting move, but he has already been debuffed. So the Grass Knot will connect. That's going to be getting Steiner deep into the red. Zeezwilus opting to let his Credilli go, so he is conceding switch advantage. There is a lot of energy on that Corsola. Aggressive switch into the Annihilate. Annihilate answered with the Charjabug. Charjabug unable to make it to that discharge due to Annihilate's energy head start. Rage Fist no shielded by the Charjabug. Charjabug, the pacing advantage allows it to get to the back-to-back discharges, and Annihilate will put up the shield. But, unfortunately, if Annihilate shields once, it's going to have to shield twice, because there's another discharge locked and loaded, but this is all going according to plan for Steiner. Steiner doesn't really mind double shielding, because he's going to get a full counter down. That is a bug type. It resists counter, yet with the Rage Fist boost, he farms down, and now this Corviknight is in trouble. Corviknight's about to get hit with back-to-back Rage Fists. After this next Rage Fist, Annihilate is at +3 attack. If Zeezwilus tries to sand attack down, he's going to lose way too much HP from these +3 counters. He knows it, so he will go for the Air Cutter. Air Cutter easily knocking out the low health Annihilate, a 30% chance at a boost, and he does get the boost as in comes Galarian Corsola. Galarian Corsola very close to the back-to-back Nightshades. The first Nightshade will not be enough to pick up the KO. Nightshade is going to land. Zeezwilus gets to the payback, just outpacing. This will pick up the KO, but the boost was so big for Zeezwilus as his sand attacks now do 2 damage instead of 1 to that Credilli. He gets the farm down. Credilli does not get the Rock Tomb, and we're going to a decisive game number 5. The leads the exact same. Credilli into Galarian Corsola. For Steiner, Steiner has the Shadow Annihilate and the Credilli of his own in the back. For Zeezwilus, the Corviknight and the Galarian Corsola. Rock Tomb into that Corsola, and an instant save switch by Steiner. Steiner knows saving the energy on Corsola usually going to be a really nice play. And now he save switches into the mirror, down on energy because Zeezwilus is on the 6th cycle, so Zeezwilus gets to apply the first debuff. Zeezwilus opting to stay in. Steiner going for the Rock Tomb. This Rock Tomb has already been debuffed. It will land, and now there's a switch out from Zeezwilus. Zeezwilus desyncing the switch clocks as in comes Corsola. Corsola immediately debuffed. This is a heavily debuffed Rock Tomb. It's not going to do a ton of damage, but it's all about burning the switch clock. Switch by Steiner into the Corsola, going for the CMP sack swap. Not only catching the move, but also CMP tying as well with the Nightshade. This is a full power Nightshade. Steiner undid his Rock Tomb debuff, so Zeezwilus will put up the shield. Can Steiner make it to another Nightshade? The answer is yes. Zeezwilus knows it as well, so Zeezwilus will throw the Nightshade. Steiner shields. He wants the knockout onto the Corsola, but the switch timer's up. Zeezwilus dances out of the matchup into Corviknight, and Corviknight is more than happy to take this Nightshade damage. There's the switch out. Timer available for Steiner. In comes Annihilate. Air Cutter is super effective, but it is a very weak attack. So Annihilate does actually have the ability to no shield. Air Cutter lands, no boost this time, and a beautiful overfarm by Steiner, playing to the charge attack priority tie. Rage Fist does get shielded by the Corviknight. Corviknight looking to try and grab the final shield away from this Annihilate. The switch clock should be up for Zeezwilus. There it is. In comes Corsola looking to snipe down with 2 Astonishes, but no! Annihilate 1 HP makes it to the Rage Fist. That's gonna knock out the Galarian Corsola, and that was not according to plan. Now there's a heavily boosted Annihilate. Nothing wants to take the counter damage. Zeezwilus waits down the timer, sends in Credilli, but Credilli takes big damage. In comes Galarian Corsola for Steiner. Zeezwilus throwing after 2 acids, so the second Astonish will not register, and this is Steiner's game to win. Steiner can get to the Rock Tomb, looking to overfarm. He wants the CMP tie, but the catch from Zeezwilus, and Steiner needs a perfect undercharge to win. He goes for the undercharge, but it's too much. The Corviknight is too healthy, and Zeezwilus with the reverse sweep advances to grand finals in one of the best series we have ever seen. Next match we'll be taking a look at is the Grand Final. Steiner, after losing that decisive Game 5 to Zeez Wireless, 3-0'd Dunebug to earn his opportunity at a rematch. Zeez Wireless comes out of the winner's side of the bracket, so he only has to win one best of 5. But Steiner, since he's coming out of the loser side of the bracket, will have to win 2 best of 5s. Interestingly for Zeez Wireless, his Guzzlord is actually running Sludge Bomb, whereas for Steiner is running more conventional movesets across the board until you see that Galarian Moltres, which we mentioned earlier, has payback. Now these finals, I'm going to be showcasing what I believe to be the most exciting games from the series. We start off with game number 1 of the Grand Finals, and that's a disastrous lead for Zeez Wireless, leading Charjabug into Bastiodon. Maybe hoping that the Bastiodon had been scared off, but the Bastiodon is back, and that's a big problem for Zeez Wireless. 4-volt switches of energy are banked. The Credilli is going to be the safe switch, and this time Steiner choosing not to switch out of the Bastiodon. Credilli farming up just shy of 100 energy. Credilli was hoping the Bastiodon would switch out, but Steiner opting to stay in, recognizing that, hey, if he wants to just stay in and win this matchup, he will have the ability to do so. And that way, he can put the Galarian Corsola onto that Charjabug. Bastiodon farming up quite a bit of energy, will just look to take the knockout with the Stone Edge. Zeez Wireless not going to use a shield here, and Steiner is able to win switch advantage. In comes Corviknight. Corviknight looking for a farm down, but it will not get there before a Flamethrower is reached. Zeez Wireless puts up the shield. Flamethrower would do quite a lot of damage, and Steiner pivots out into Credilli, and it's actually going to be a switch into the Charjabug as well. Charjabug had a load of energy banked from earlier. X-Scissor grabs the shield, and there's already another X-Scissor locked and loaded, ready to go. The second X-Scissor will grab the final shield. Steiner really looking to invest in the health of this Credilli as the win con. Credilli's Rock Tomb will easily KO the Charjabug. Zeez Wireless is forced to put up the shield. Switch Clock not going to be up for Zeez Wireless to make a catch, so he will need to throw an X-Scissor to burn this clock. Zeez Wireless had banked 4-volt switches of energy to start the game, whereas he had banked 5 before. Steiner is worried he has a move, so he pivots out, attempting to catch an X-Scissor, but Zeez Wireless did not quite have the move available yet, as Zeez Wireless had done 4-volt switches this game, whereas in the previous game where he played out the same strategy, he had done 5. So a slight adjustment from Zeez Wireless forces a misplay from Steiner, and Corviknight is very happy in this Corsola matchup, because Corviknight will get that payback right before the Nightshade is reached, and Corsola has no hope of ever surviving this charge attack. So payback lands, picking up the knockout. In comes Credilli. Credilli will easily take the KO, and it's all going to be up to Charjabug. Charjabug instantly met with a Bastiodon. Bastiodon not going to get a second smackdown through. Discharge will pick up the KO, but can Steiner get the farm down with acids? In comes Credilli. Credilli does not get the farm down. Zeez Wireless leads a Charjabug into a Bastiodon and is somehow able to turn the game around and walk away with a Game 1 win. In game number 2, the Bastiodon stays on the field for Steiner. Zeez Wireless an adjustment in strategy. Both the Credilli and the Charjabug have been benched. Instead, the AVA weakness to Bastiodon is with Galarian Corsola and the Guzzlord in the back. Corsola farms up to 100 energy, firing off this Nightshade, but Corsola's problem in this matchup is Nightshade does very little damage. Bastiodon, just shy of 100, will go for the Stone Edge, and an instant no shield from Zeez Wireless. The Stone Edge connects, he's looking to safe switch into the Corviknight. Corviknight will get chipped with a Flamethrower, but Zeez Wireless says no, putting up the shield. The switch timer does get desynced, and out comes Credilli. So for Zeez Wireless, he has a lot of health on the Corviknight. That's something he can look to protect in this game. He does have the desync of the switch timers that can potentially work in his favor, but the biggest issue that he has is he is AVA weak to that Bastiodon. And Bastiodon is again going to be a nuisance. He keeps running weak to it, hoping it gets benched, but it does not. Rock Tomb will connect. Switch Clock coming up soon, and there it is. Back in comes the Corsola. Corsola's Nightshade will not be enough to take the knockout. Steiner knows this. Going to be no shielding. Steiner goes for the Rock Tomb. Zeez Wireless has already used one Protect Shield, cannot afford to give up the second. So down goes Corsola. still has quite a bit of energy loaded on that Corviknight, and importantly, was able to reset that attack drop. But instead, it's going to be Guzzlord. Guzzlord gets that Dragon Tail farm down and is now up on energy, but in comes a wall. Bastiodon hits the field. Bastiodon's going to absorb this Brutal Swing damage so effortlessly. Bastiodon will no shield. Guzzlord's Brutal Swing is gonna land, and that doesn't even do half of Bastiodon's health. Z's Wireless needs this Brutal Swing to knock out. Steiner thinks about it. Steiner lets it go. Brutal Swing does not KO. The Bastiodon hangs on, refusing to get knocked out. Stone Edge shielded by Z's Wireless, but by surviving, that has set up the Corsola to close out this game. Galarian Corsola, 2 shields to hide behind, but not going to use one here. Instead, going to tank the first Brutal Swing, and then look to overfarm, because what really needs to happen is the landing of a Power Gem onto this Guzzlord. Z's Wireless Switch Clock is available. He stays in, predicting Steiner will predict the catch, but Steiner just fires off this Power Gem. Power Gem lands. Guzzlord hangs on. The back-to-back 1 HP survives. Steiner is going to no shield, and with that survive, Z's Wireless can win this game. Z's Wireless is almost at the back-to-back air cutters. He will reach that before Corsola gets the move. Steiner waits the turn and gets the catch onto Bastiodon. What a game! Catches left and right. 1 HP survives, left and right. Galarian Corsola going for the slightly harder hitting Power Gem. Will this be enough to knock out? Power Gem into the Corviknight. Does not KO, but the Astonish after does. 1 HP once again, and Steiner gets the equalizer. Our next featured game will be from the bracket reset, game number 3. Corviknight able to outpace Annihilate, Air Cutter dealing significant damage, and a catch and sneak of a full Volt Switch as Charjabug hits the field. Rage Fist not landing on its intended target. Steiner throws a counter, defers the Volt Switch onto Corsola, and Corsola has an absolutely dominant matchup into Charjabug if it's not running Crunch. This matchup is so dominant that Corsola, it just shakes off those discharges like it's absolutely nothing. And the Astonishes already have that Charjabug pretty close to red HP. Another discharge will connect. Corsola does not mind. Corsola wants to try and exit with as much residual energy as it possibly can. Throwing 3 and the move. Z's Wireless will opt to no shield. Nightshade connects, picking up the knockout. Charjabug has been KO'd. In comes Corviknight. Corviknight going to no shield as Nightshade should put it into the yellow health. Nightshade lands, Corviknight able to hang on, but there's a quick switch out into Credilli, and this is going to be a very difficult game for Z's Wireless. Z's Wireless is able to get a bait call though, baiting with the Air Cutter and switching into the Credilli. He can never let that Corviknight get knocked out if the Credilli for Steiner is still alive, because then he would just get permanently Rock Tomb debuffed and have no ability to switch and reset those debuffs. He will go for the Rock Tomb as soon as he can get it. It's already been debuffed by Steiner's Credilli, so Rock Tomb will not do a ton of damage. But this next Rock Tomb will burn the switch clock for Steiner, so if Steiner wants to pivot out and get his Credilli back up to full attack, he can do just that. And it's by sending in Annihilate, Annihilate resisting the acids. Credilli not going to get a farm down, forced to go for a Grass Knot, so Steiner not only wastes energy, but gets some very, very valuable damage. Z's Wireless does not have a lot of health on any of his remaining Pokemon. Both are very close to red HP. In comes Credilli. It's going to be a race to the charge attack. They're going to reach it at the same time. Both trainers over farming. Z's Wireless opting for the Grass Knot, hoping against hope that Steiner no shields, but he will put up the shield. In comes Corviknight. Instant response from Steiner, going for the Rock Tomb. Now Corviknight has been debuffed. This is going to be very, very close. Can Corviknight get to the payback? It does, but the catch from Steiner, it would have been a charge attack priority tie. This puts Z's Wireless into the position of needing a perfect undercharge. He undercharges the payback, looking for the sand attack down. Can he leave with a payback? He cannot. That is so unfortunate. It's going to be a charge attack priority tie. Air Cutter will not be enough to knock out the Credilli. Steiner did play 2 charge attack priority with the Rock Tomb. Z's Wireless still has the Credilli. Can his Credilli make it to a move? Both Credillis are very low. It's going to be a race in the endgame. Who has more health? Steiner has slightly more health, takes the farm down, and is 1 win away from being crowned regional champion. The trainers lock in for game number 4, and it's the battle of the dark types. Galarian Moltres into Guzzlord. But with some atypical movesets, with the Moltres not having Brave Bird and with the Guzzlord not having Dragon Claw, this matchup is not as clear as it might seem. Guzzlord able to hit for neutral damage with Dragon Tail, but it's stuck going for Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb does not get Sim type attack bonus, which means that even though Galarian Moltres puts up the first shield, a Sludge Bomb number 2 that's able to connect will not be enough to take the knockout. Fly from the Moltres will do big damage to the Guzzlord, but Guzzlord's able to survive as well. Guzzlord will get the Sludge Bomb, and after, can try and attempt a farm down to exit with a charge attack loaded. Sludge Bomb lands, Steiner pivots into Credilli. This is terrible news for Zweilous. He can't afford to bring in the Gastrodon into the grass type, so he sends in Corviknight, but Corviknight struggles in this matchup quite a bit. Rock Tomb is gonna land, and before the Corviknight has even had a chance to deal meaningful damage, Credilli has already applied that debuff. Payback, no shielded by Steiner, will land, getting Credilli to just below half HP, but now Steiner will get to apply another Rock Tomb debuff, making this Corviknight feel less and less deadly. Switch Clock coming up soon for Steiner. There's the switch into the Moltres. The Sucker Punch damage forces that Corviknight to throw an Air Cutter, and that is really nice for Steiner, as now the Corviknight doesn't have an ability to save energy and make a payback into the Corsola later in the game. He waits down the timer, sends in Corsola. Corsola answered with that Gastrodon. Gastrodon really does not appreciate being down energy. Corsola makes the Nightshade. Gastrodon knows a Nightshade is guaranteed to land, so Gastrodon will save that Protect Shield, but unfortunately, these Astonishes are just hitting so hard. Steiner gets the CMP tie as well. Immediate no shield. He knows a Water Pulse will not be enough to knock out. Thing to keep in mind, there is a Brutal Swing loaded on that Guzzlord. Nightshade gets the final shield from Zweilous. Steiner still has the shield to hide behind. The Astonish does go through, and Steiner is gonna let this Galarian Corsola go. It's the Credilli show. In comes Credilli. Credilli throwing 2, and the move mid-Mud Slap means Zweilous, that Mud Slap damage does not register, and he will get knocked out. The Guzzlord is so low. It has a Brutal Swing, but this is not Brutal Swing range. Going for the Air Cutter, hoping that Steiner shields it, but Steiner does not. He lets it go. In comes the Guzzlord. Guzzlord unable to get the back-to-back moves, and LNDS Steiner is going to win this series as Credilli farms down the Guzzlord, makes the Rock Tomb into the Corviknight, and he secures a win, winning 2 best-of-5s against Zweilous to be crowned the Pittsburgh Pokemon Go 2026 Regional Champion. I was lucky enough to be one of the broadcasters in person for this tournament, and the level of gameplay in this new meta with the 45-second switch timer was absolutely unbelievable. I had an incredible trip. I had so many people say hi, chat with me for a little bit, take photos, and it was an incredibly cool and an incredibly humbling experience. So if you're one of the people who came up and said hi to me during Pittsburgh, many thanks for doing so, as it was, every time it happened, it was an absolute highlight of my day. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Home Slice Henry, and this is More Slice Henry, my second channel where I make content primarily related to the Pokemon Go Championship Series, educational content, and other content that I feel just doesn't really have a home on my main channel. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not, and I'll see you in the next video.